Welcome comic book fans and welcome to another suddenlycomics.com video. Today I've got what I think is an important video for comic collectors. I think there's going to be a market correction on price variance. So specifically here I'm talking about the UK price variance of Marvel and DC comics. So, for those of you who are not aware of this, from about May 1960, I think, through to 1981, a number of Marvel and DC comics were printed with a UK pricing instead of US pricing. Not all comics were, but probably about 40 or 50% of the comics produced during that period of time were produced with a UK pricing. Now, the important thing to note here, I'm going to put a thing up here. Let me get my right hand on this. Zoom. I'm going to put a thing up here that shows the various little symbols that are used for UK pricing. Also, I've done a whole video on UK currency, explaining it for the current comic collector, and I'm going to put a link to that video which explains UK currency below. So I'm also going to put a link below to an excellent website which I'm just going to link to here. I think you should be able to see that. Yeah, you can. So this is a website that talks about UK price variance, and it explains something very important, and that is that the UK price variance produced by both Marvel and DC are what are called Type 1A cover price variants. Now, this was a definition that was defined by Overstreet in 2010 by the comic historian here, John McClure. And you can see there the definition of a Type 1 USA published foreign distribution variant. Now, what effectively this means is that these price variants were printed at exactly the same time, in the same location, on the same pressers, with the same paper, with the same ink as the US priced counterparts, with the only difference being that instead of the cent value you had the pence value. Okay, and occasionally the date stamp wasn't there as well. So these are effectively the identical comics to the ones that were sold in the USA. They are just these Type 1 variants. Now, as this site goes on to explain, the other important factor to note about this is that there are far fewer of these comics. Okay, now the first issue is the UK is a lot smaller than the USA, so consequently you don't need as many comics, plus not as many people in the UK during the period of 1960 to 1980 read comics as a percentage of the US population. So as it says here, the UK priced variant was approximately 5% of the US print run. However, because quite a lot of these, they obviously had to ship to the UK, and they therefore were more prone to damage. And so the current estimate is that about 1 to 2% of copies that are available of these comics are UK price variants. Okay, so they are much rarer than the US price variants. Now, interestingly, I'm going to switch back to me now. Interestingly, both CGC and CBCS census data shows US price variant and the UK price variant for each comic. Now I'm going to show you one, a UK price variant of a particularly valuable comic. and it is this one. And I bought this a couple of months ago on UK eBay, and it's Fantastic Four number 48, and you can see there, I think it has got a its price there. It says 10D, and that is 10 old English pennies pre-decimalisation. Okay, so this is a UK price variant, and on the blue sticker from CGC it says UK price variant. So let's go to the CGC census and have a look and see how many of these comics. Let's switch back to you there, and I've got the CGC census data up here. So this is the CGC census data for Fantastic Four number 48, and you can see here this is the first appearance of Silver Surfer and Galactus as a cameo, Inhumans and the Watcher appearance, and there are a large, this is a well graded comic. There are, of the US variant, there are 7,344 of them. And here we go, they list the UK price variant, and there are 70 of them. Yeah, 70. So there are 7,300 US variants and 70 UK variants. So the 1% figure holds up pretty well on this comic. So about 1% of all CGC graded copies of this comic are UK variants. Now I've got a 5, so let's just look at the 5 here. So of the US variants, there are 623 graded 5, and of the UK variants there are 7. Now you tell me, which is more valuable, one of the 623 or one of these 7? I know which I think is that should be the more valuable. It's the one that is only 1% of the total population. You know, so if I look at this, there are 7 of these comics. Well, I could claim that a grade 5 of Fantastic Four 4.8 graded UK price variant is rarer than a US 9.8. There are 46 US 9.8s of this comic. There are only 7 of the UK priced variant in a grade 5. Okay, let's go to CBCS, who also record this data. So here we go, we've got Fantastic Four 48, and on CBCS, obviously not as many graded by CBCS, but they have graded 481 that they've got listed as Fantastic Four variants. Now interestingly, they've got 2 here. One of the this is the 9D UK price variant, and then they've got UK edition. Well, as you can see, my one is actually a 10D copy. I'll be very surprised if there's a 9D copy. So I don't know whether that's an error, but let's take, there's 3 of them. So again, less than 1%. So both on CGC and CBCS, the UK price variant is less than 1% of the US variant. Okay, I'm going to take a look at a couple of other comics. I'm going to show you one I think is particularly interesting. So I'm going to switch back here so you can see me. Hang on a second. There we go. Right. I'm going to show you a couple of. I'm going to get my UK price variants that I've got that I'm going to show you now. I'm going to get them CGC graded because I think they are rare comics. Now, first up, I'm going to show you this one. It's in a really nice condition. I bought this back in February this year from an online comic sale. Krypton Comics are based in London. Really nice. It's the first appearance of the Kree Century. and as you can see, it's a price that it's a UK price. It's UK priced. I think this could be a 7 or a 7.5. It's in really good condition. So I went onto the CGC census, and for this comic, Fantastic Four 64, there are 573 US price variants listed, have been graded. Do you know how many UK price variants have been graded by CGC? None. So when I get this graded, this will be the only CGC graded Fantastic Four 64. I think this could be a 7. Let's assume it's a 7. Is this worth more or less than the US price variant? I know what I think. I think it should be worth a lot more, because there are less than 1% of them there are none. This will be the only graded UK price variant for this comic. Right, a couple more here. This is a nice early Doctor Doom cover. This is Fantastic Four number 23, and you can see this is a 9D. This is 9D pricing, so this is UK price variant. So Fantastic Four 23. I went and had a look at the census data on CGC. There are 636 graded US priced comics, and there are 5 UK price variants. There's an 8.5, an 8, and a 5.5, a 4.5, and a 2.5. I think mine's probably around about a 5. So this will be the 3rd or 4th highest graded UK priced variant when I get this graded. Right, I'm just going to show. I've got a number of these. Fantastic Four, early Fantastic Fours in UK pricing, but I'm going to show you. I think is one of the rarest. In fact, I think this is very rare. I actually picked this up last week for under £20 on UK eBay, and it is Fantastic Four Annual number 3. Okay, and I'm not sure you can pick this up, but the pricing here, it says 1 shilling and 6pence. It's actually also been stamped with 1 shilling and 6pence. I'm not sure why the stamp was required, but anyway, this is a UK price variant, Fantastic Four Annual number 3. Now, this is very unusual. In fact, most of the time they did not do UK price variants for annuals. The only time they did it was in 1 year, and that was the year this was produced, 1965. So it is only the annuals from 1965, and I think there were 4 or 5 of them, of which this was one, which were given a UK pricing. So this 1 shilling 6 pence, 6 old English pennies, is a very unusual pricing. I have never seen another comic with that pricing on it. That's because, of course, it's an annual, so they wanted to charge more for it. So all the standard comics had lower pricing than this. This in this year was the only time that annuals were actually priced. So I'm not sure you will ever see another comic with 1 shilling 6D pricing on it. So I went to the census and I had a look on the census for this comic. This is a much rarer comic. There are only 379 graded copies of this on the CGC census. There are 11 Canadian price variants, which is interesting, and there are 2 UK price variants. One of them is an 8.5 and one of them is a 4.5. This isn't an 8.5. However, I do think it's around that 4.55 level. So this could be the second high. When I get this graded, this will be one of 3, and it could be the second highest graded UK price variant. Okay, right. And I'm going to show one more. This is Fantastic Four 53. It's a really nice comic. and this is in really nice condition, and you can clearly see the 10D pricing there. This of course is the second appearance and origin of the Black Panther, and also the first appearance of the villain called Claw. As you can see, it's a nice copy. So what does the census say on this one? So this is Fantastic Four 53, and the census says this is more highly graded, this comic. So there are US price variance as 1,371, and UK price variance on the CGC census is 12. So again, the 1% is holding up here. So I'll get this graded, and I'll be one of the 12, well, it'll be 13 when I get this graded, 13 UK price variants. Right, so a message to all you UK collectors out there: do not undersell your UK price variants. Whatever you do, do not sell them for less than the fair market value of the US priced variants. Historically, the UK price variants have sold for less. This is crazy, absolutely crazy. Why would you sell something for less that is 100 times rarer? Okay, whatever you do, do not sell for less than fair market value. If you want to sell for the US price fair market value, okay, but I think you're crazy. I think you need to hold out. If anything, the UK price variance should be worth more, in my view, 10, 20, 30% more than the US variants, because they are far, far, far rarer. So that's my message to UK sellers. Now a message for US buyers. US buyers, look at UK eBay. Unfortunately, I've only got about 90 subscribers. So most of the UK comic people are not listening to me. So you will be able to, you can go now onto UK eBay. You will find UK priced variant copies of these comics, and people will be selling them for less than the fair market value. Snap them up. Snap them up. I certainly am. Okay, if I see early Fantastic Fours in decent condition, UK priced, I'm going onto that census, I can see how rare they are. I'm buying them. And you can still get them cheaper than the fair market value because they're pence copies. Crazy. But the market is changing. It is changing. Okay? And 5-10 years time, there won't be any more arguments about this. Okay? The UK price variants will be higher priced than the US variants and the Canadian variants and newsstands. You know, the newsstand prices which have gone crazy is because some, you know, only 10% were produced as newsstand. The UK price variant isn't 10%, it's 1%. Okay? Enough said.